Hi guys, it's Pavi. I hope you are all keeping well and enjoyed the Australian Open. What 2 weeks of tennis and drama. Congratulations to Yannick Sinner for winning the men's, for Madison Keys for winning the women's, and wishing Novak Djokovic obviously a swift recovery after his injury he picked up in the semi-final. So the reason why I'm jumping on today, I'm trying not going to be too long today, but I just wanted to jump on because there's a lot of sort of misinformation going on about Yannick Sinner, or lack of information in terms of what happens next with his case. And the point was kind of proven quite. The reason why I'm on this is kind of, I saw a tweet from Mark Petchey yesterday who kind of alluded to the fact that the court arbitration of sport court trial was actually going to be taking place next month. And that just that kind of evidences the lack of noise that was made during the Australian Open when the court arbitration of sport actually confirmed that, having looked at all the information that WADA had provided them, that the court hearing had now been confirmed. And that was announced in probably halfway through. I think it was announced on the 11th or 12th of January, so kind of early on in the Australian Open. Not much of the media picked it up, which is why not many people know. It almost feels like they don't want people to know, but I can confirm that the date for the court arbitration of sport hearing between Yannick Sinner and WADA is on the 16th of April and also on the 17th of April. So it's expected a decision to be made after that 2-day hearing. Now, the other thing I keep seeing on social media and hearing what people others say is, what are WADA going to do with the decision? Are they going to kind of exonerate Sinner, or are they going to punish him? WADA have already made their decision. Okay, so with the ITIA, WADA used to look, back in the day when WADA first set up in the late 1990s, they used to be responsible of all anti-doping in all of the sports. Now, as they grew and as all the sports kind of took on board that this is an important program that they need to take on, they outsourced some of that to different sports. Now, tennis was one of them, and it was initially the ITF that used to be responsible for the anti-doping program. In 2022, the ITIA was formed to basically act as the anti-corruption unit within tennis, but also be in charge solely of the anti-doping program. So for the last 3 years, they've had full control of that. But what WADA said when they did the contract is that we will still review the cases to make sure there was no major issues or major errors that have taken place, and you must adhere to the World Anti-Doping Code, which is what WADA have kind of built, and that's what people and the sports have to adhere to. So the ITIA would have committed to that and say, fine, we know the details of the code, we will now run with it, and that's basically what's happened. Now, for the first time ever, WADA have decided to appeal a decision that the ITIA have made. Now, this is very, very significant because WADA are only doing this as a review point of view. They're only reviewing it as a matter of kind of course, really. And I wouldn't imagine that anyone would look really seriously into it at WADA unless there was some glaring errors. Now, they looked at this case for over a month. They looked at all the information provided in the hearings that the ITIA conducted, the 3 hearings, and then there was a 30-odd page report which detailed everything that had kind of gone through. WADA have had a look through all of that information, and they have then written to the Court Arbitration of Sport back in October to say, we don't agree with the ITIA exonerating Yannick Sinner. We believe, whether it be Sinner and or his team, they all have a responsibility. So the ITIA made a final decision to say that Yannick Sinner and his team bear no fault or negligence in him failing 2 separate drug tests. And they were separate drug tests. It wasn't a sample A and sample B. He was tested twice. March the 10th, 2024, March the 18th, 2 separate drug tests, and he tested positive both times to having clostebol, which is a banned performance enhancing substance, a form of an anabolic steroid found in his system. So they kind of went on that then. They also released a statement to saying, look, we're not saying that he's done it intentionally. So that you'll hear a lot of Sinner's defenders saying, oh, WADA have said that he definitely didn't do it intentionally. They never said definitely. They said it could. They've always said that, it's possible that he didn't intentionally dope. And the reason for that is they have to go on what Yannick Sinner has told them. So Yannick Sinner has not got any independent evidence because what he's kind of said is that his team were basically the reason why he got contaminated. So it falls under two characters in that team: a fitness trainer, Umberto Ferrero, and also Giacomo Naldi. Giacomo Naldi, who was his physio. Very, very close-knit unit. They were always together. Yannick Sinner often talks how close that team was. So the fault was basically that Umberto Ferrero had a banned substance in his possession. When he's an experienced pharmacy, he was also ironically in charge of anti-doping control for Sinner. So for the fact that he had something that was known to be a banned substance in his possession is alarm bells are ringing. And then Giacomo Naldi was the physio who decided to use that cream for a cut on a finger. Apparently used it for 8 days on an open wound and decided to keep on massaging Yannick Sinner, who had known lesions, and that's how it got transmitted. So basically, WADA have had a look at that and said, look, if that's the story that you're telling us, we don't know if, we can't say that you intentionally dope. Now, the important component here is the ITIA didn't ask for a hair sample from Yannick Sinner. Now, there could be two reasons for that. A, they could have thought we don't need it. B, it could have been declined by Yannick Sinner and his team. They could have said, no, we don't want to provide it. Now, historically, and from kind of how doping is detected, hair samples can kind of evidence if there was reasons to believe that this was not just a one-off and it was done regularly. They did one for Iga Swiatek, and that came kind of clear. It wasn't done on Yannick Sinner's case. So WADA have had a look at all this information and have said, look, we're not happy with, what we've seen here. We're appealing the decision. The first time ever WADA have appealed an ITIA decision. An ITIA make hundreds of decisions each year. So, it's quite significant. The other significant point is they did exactly the same to Iga Swiatek. So those who are saying, oh, WADA are just doing this. No, they're not doing this just out of, they don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on a legal court and have put their reputation at stake. Of course they don't. And they decided not to in the Swiatek case because they didn't feel they had enough evidence that would justify the kind of penalty that they're seeking for in the Yannick Sinner case, which is a minimum period of 1 year. They've recommended 1 to 2 years. So this is kind of, it needs to be clear out there because people say what WADA deciding. That is kind of what they've decided. They've decided to go against this decision made by the ITIA. The important thing that also isn't often mentioned is the ITIA cannot be considered as an independent organisation because it is funded solely by tennis. So ITIA is funded by the ATP, the WTA, the ITF, all of the 4 Grand Slams. So tennis funds ITIA. Okay, so if you want to say it, so, if you fund a company, you're essentially the owners. They're owned essentially by tennis. So for those that saying Yannick has gone through an independent process and, these are independent trials, no, ITIA are funded by tennis. And there's a conflict of interest for me because if you look at who are ATP's key sponsors, the key sponsors of the Masters Series, which is the most lucrative product on the ATP, it is Rolex. Now, you look at Rolex, who one of their key sponsors of their athletes that they sponsor, it is Yannick Sinner. So those who are saying there is no conflict of interest, you just have to look at the facts and make up your own decision. I'm not going to make a decision for you. I'm just going to try and present you with facts, and it's up to you to decide what you want to do with those and who you want to believe. Okay, so what happens next? Okay, what happens next? So the other significant thing is that the Court Arbitration of Sport is the highest sports court in the entire world. They probably have thousands of people that want to go to their courts. It's a bit like how the CPS works in the UK, the Crown Prosecution Service, where if police have something that they feel is strong enough to go to the court, the CPS have to assess that court to see is there enough evidence for it to even go to court in the first place. WADA have provided that evidence to the Court Arbitration of Sport. They've looked through all of the evidence that WADA have provided and felt that they have got a strong case. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be going to the Court Arbitration of Sport. So that's an important thing. The other thing is that if we look at where the Court Arbitration of Sport have had a dispute with the ITIA, so the most recent example that I can give you where the court arbitration are essentially against the ITIA is in the Simona Halep case. Now, obviously, this was just over a year ago. Now, Simona Halep took her case to the Court Arbitration of Sport because it was almost the opposite way. She was arguing that the ITIA have said that she is intentionally doping, and she had evidence to prove that that wasn't the case. It took her several months to get her court hearing in the Court Arbitration of Sport, and the ITIA decided to keep her suspended for that period. Now, the ITIA went against, the CAS went against the ITIA then, because they actually agreed with Igor Swiatek and said, yes, we actually, on the information that you provided, don't feel that you intentionally doped. And her ban was reduced to just 9 months for maybe negligence on a team, and that could be maybe they didn't check the supplement properly. So she was given a 9-month ban. But the problem that Simona Halep had is she'd already been suspended for nearly 18 months. So she had to serve an extra 9 months that she shouldn't have, which is, why she is so angry with what's happening with both the Jannik Sinner case and also the Igor Swiatek case. So that's an important, precedent. That's where the Court Arbitration of Sport have kind of have gone with before. Now, the other thing is, whether it's civil, whether it's criminal, if someone is taking you to court, so Jannik Sinner and his team have issued statements, they think they're in the clear, they are not expecting WADA to overturn this decision, because WADA have never overturned a decision before from the ITIA. So they think they're in the clear. All of a sudden, they get a phone call from WADA, because Jannik Sinner kind of explained this in a press conference, that he knew before it went live that they were going to charge it, that a member of WADA contact their team and say, we are appealing this decision, we are going to take you to court. Okay, so at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if Jannik Sinner and his team contacted WADA, because the last thing that Jannik Sinner and his team want to do is go to this court, because they've got no control of the Court Arbitration of Sport. The Court Arbitration of Sport is independent to tennis. It's got nothing to do with tennis. It's got experienced professionals, experts that must uphold the law in sport. And these come from different backgrounds. They are checked regularly to make sure that they themselves are not subject to any anti-corruption. So they have very strict anti-corruption methods. So everyone is vetted. So I've checked all of this with the CAS and in terms of how they vet their people, and I'm confident that this is an independent outcome. So Jannik Sinner and his team would never really want this court trial hanging over them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've contacted WADA and said, look, we hear what you're saying. You feel that there's some negligence. Let's try and settle this out of court. And they might have said to WADA, look, how about we take a 1 month ban, or let's take a 3-month ban, or whatever it may be. Or they might have said a little bit to kind of what happened with Swiatek. Swiatek had her ban done in installments. They might have said, look, we'll agree that we bore some negligence. We didn't do it intentionally. Can we have we'll do a 3-month ban, but it has to be after the Australian Open. Or they might have stipulated when they wanted to have that ban. Now, the fact that it's now going to court and there's a court case meant that if those conversations ever happen, it's likely that WADA have said, no, we want you banned for a minimum of 1 to 2 years. And we've got the kind of information to suggest, and the evidence, more importantly, to suggest to do so. This is why I'm very, very confident that WADA have got a very, very strong case against Jannik Sinner. They are not going to spend hundreds of thousands in legal fees put their reputation at stake, put their relationship at stake with the ITIA, unless they had significant information. So when the media people, you got John Wortham and John McEnroe, he'll probably get a 3-month ban. Greg Rosetsky said yesterday he doesn't think he'll get any ban. Mark Petrie wants him to continue. None of these media have got a clue. They're just, they haven't got a clue. They haven't been looking into the case, into the details as much as I have. And I've been looking at, and I'm not just doing it from a biased point of view. People think that I'm doing this because I feel for some reason Jannik Sinner is stopping Djokovic from winning trophies. I've said many times after Djokovic won Olympics, he's completed tennis. It doesn't really matter to me. If Jannik Sinner beats Djokovic fair and square, I have absolutely no problem with that. You can look back at all of my tweets. Whenever Sinner has beaten Djokovic, I have congratulated him after the match every single time, and I've said the best person won on the day. So that's got nothing to do with it. This is for me to do with justice, integrity and fairness, which matters to me. And it matters that the truth is out there. So all these people saying he's not going to get banned, he's going to get 3 months, they haven't got a clue what they're talking about. They don't. I'm confidently saying that because I think I have got full faith in the court arbitration of sport to make a fair ruling on this. And I believe that WADA have got significant kind of evidence on there to make that decision. So it's important that, this is clarified because there's so much information out there that are either false narratives. Some of the media don't want to talk about it. Some of the media that do are putting out wrong information. So it's important that the information out there is true. I have to reiterate numerous times to the amount of abuse that I get from the Jannik Sinner fans. This is not personal to Jannik Sinner. It is the rules. If the rules have been broken and whatever player doesn't adhere to the anti-doping world code that they have to adhere to, they've broken the rules. WADA have confirmed in writing to the Court Arbitration of Sport and on their own website, if you don't believe me, you can have a look at that Jannik Sinner has committed 2 anti-doping offences as per the anti-doping code. So, this isn't just me who is saying that he's broken codes. He's broken codes. We don't know if he's done it intentionally or not. We can only go on what he has told us, what he has told the tribunals, in that he feels that he was only contaminated because it was contaminated through his physio and through the fitness trainer having a banned substance that he shouldn't have done. And they've backed up his story. But they are part of his team. So it cannot be considered as independent evidence, but there is no other evidence, so you have to go on what the person tells you. So that's kind of that's where it is. The other thing that I think is important to mention is that my one of my biggest reasons of concern with Jannik Sinner is that why didn't he come out publicly at the time to say, listen, I have failed 2 drug tests. I am wholly innocent, and I'm going to prove to the world why I'm innocent. And, please believe me, and this is incorrect, but I want to be transparent and honest with you. If he did that on day one, I 100% would not have an issue at all and say things happen, it could have been, a genuine mistake. But I would have thought, fair play to this kid. He's come out and he's kind of been honest. He's been open, a bit like Max Purcell has done. Max Purcell was voluntarily suspended because he went over a tiny amount of vitamins when he was poorly and had IV pumped into him. Not intentional. He's come out and told the world, this is what's happened. I wasn't voluntarily suspended. I failed a drug test. These are the rules. Jannik Sinner didn't do that. Now, for those who are saying, oh yeah, but he was told not to do that by the ITIA, I don't believe that. Which organisation, an anti-corruption organisation, will tell someone not to tell the truth? It can't happen. Why would they tell him not to tell the truth? Oh, because, this, you might get a lot of heat from the media. That's nothing to do with the ITIA. The ITIA are an anti-corrupt unit in tennis. If they are telling people not to tell the truth, that is a big issue in tennis. I don't believe that's the case. And Max Purcell, who has confirmed that when he failed the test, he's told us straight away. So That is a big red flag for me. Why Yannick Sinner waited months before telling anyone, and even that seemed kind of forced. I don't even know if it was supposed to come out. Was it a whistleblower that finally lifted the lid on what happened? I do not know, but that is my only big concern with Yannick Sinner. Playing wise, he's a phenomenal player. He's at the moment dominating the sport like no one's dominated. He's at the most successful 12 months that any player has had on the tour, on the women's or men's tour. He's won 3 slams in that period. So playing wise, he's a phenomenal player. But there's issues that have happened here with these failed drug tests that need addressing, and that's exactly what the court arbitration of trial will do. There's going to be 3 arbitrators. There's going to be Yannick Sinner will have an arbitrator who will liaise with Yannick Sinner's legal team and present his side of the story. Then there will be the WADA, who will have their own arbitrator who will work with the WADA legal team to present their case. And then the CAS will have their own arbitrator, which will absorb all of the information that is given to them from both sides, from both arbitrators, and they will make a final decision. That final decision will be binding. There is the only appeal that any side can do within 28 days is in a court in Lucerne, in Switzerland. That is normally reserved only if there's technical issues, so something technicalities. It's not normally based on the decision making. So whatever the CAS do, it will be a binding decision. A lot of people have said, will I accept the CAS decision? I have to. I know a lot of people call me a conspiracy and I don't trust the establishment and stuff, but I believe that the Court Arbitration of Sport is an independent court. I believe that it checks all of the people that works for it to make sure that they're not involved in any wrongdoings or any corruption or anything like that. So I've got to have faith that the Court Arbitration of Sport will make the right decision. And if we think that the highest courts in the world are not being legit and not doing what they should be doing in their jobs, because they might be under undue influence from someone, then the country and the world is in bigger trouble than I think. So I have full confidence with the Court Arbitration of Sport hearing, and let's see what happens. But I needed to kind of get out there and just put out some points again, and more than happy to debate with anyone. A lot of the times all I get from the Sinner fan base is threats and abuse and all sorts, and I'm not going to engage with those sorts of people. But if some people want to respectfully put their point of view, I can listen to that and I can put my point of view across. But I needed to get this video out just to put out a few clarifications with what's happening. The court case now is April the 16th 2025 at the Court Arbitration of Sport, Lucerne, Switzerland. It's gonna reveal a lot, I believe, and it will finally get closure and a final decision on all of this. So that's all for me for today. Wherever you are, hope you have a great rest of the week. Stay safe. God bless to you all. If you haven't subscribed, then subscribe on my YouTube. It's Pavi G. A lot of exciting stuff is going to be coming on there soon, including my own podcast. So I'm going to be interviewing various people in tennis, some interesting people, some people that may have been kicked out of the sport, some people that may have felt restricted in what they could say. So it's going to be an honest and open podcast. It's going to give you different perspective. There's a lot of tennis podcasts out there at the moment. It's a saturated market, but I feel a lot of them are kind of just pushing the narrative because they're desperate for accreditations and desperate for media opportunities. I don't care. I'll put my work out there, and if people like it, they'll watch it. If they don't, they don't. It doesn't bother me, but I'm interested is getting the truth out there, and if there's a few uncomfortable truths, then so be it. As long as we can back it up with facts and we're not manipulating and sending out propaganda like the establishment are doing, then that's what I'm here for. Okay, peace out. Take care. See you soon. Bye.